Chapter 964. Leonard stood up and looked at Gu Meng Meng. First, great messenger, please accept all the tribesmen of Zacharias, including the former tribesmen who ambushed the Snake King Valley. Let them become members of Saint Nazir and be protected by the great messenger. Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. You mean to disband Zacharias? Reynold took a deep breath and replied, Yes, I am. Without the soul of the forest, Zacharias has no meaning to exist. Gu Meng Meng narrowed her eyes and remained silent for a moment. Instead of answering Leonard, she asked, Since that's the case, why did you raise this condition in the first place? Leonard knew he couldn't hide it from her and he didn't want to either. The stray beast Cole once threatened me. If I didn't do as he said, he would destroy the entire tribe of Zacharias. Cole again, what did he threaten you with? Gu Meng Meng asked in a seemingly nonchalant manner. Leonard frowned. He couldn't help feeling humiliated at the thought of being threatened by a stray beast. But in order to seek protection for his tribesmen, he had to be honest no matter how humiliating it was. So he suppressed his rising and falling chest and said, He asked me to accept a portion of the tribesmen without a tribe, then go to Sodor to seek peace with you in exchange for the soul of the forest. He also promised that as long as I can do these two things, Zacharias will not be attacked by stray beasts for 100 years and can rest. Since you have already done what he asked of you, why not enjoy this 100 years of peace? Gu Meng Meng asked. Leonard answered without hiding anything. I don't trust the words of the stray beasts. I am more willing to hand the tribe over to the great messenger. Firstly, after you obtain the soul of the forest, we will also be protecting the soul of the forest by staying by your side. Secondly, I can't let my tribesmen live under the whims of the stray beasts. Gu Meng Meng nodded, agreeing to the first condition. Then, she asked, what is the second condition? Leonard said, when the great messenger goes to retrieve the soul of the forest, please bring me along. I want to know what the thing that Zacharias has been protecting for thousands of years looks like. Gu Meng Meng nodded and agreed. And the third condition? Only then did Leonard turn around and look at Dora. His eyes were filled with pity as he said, Lord Messenger, please pardon Dora and cleanse her of the humiliation. Gu Meng Meng took a deep breath and said with a troubled expression, what if I don't agree? Reynold clenched his teeth, clenched his fists, and said, as long as Lord Emissary is willing to agree to these three conditions, Reynold will be Lord Emissary's dog in the future. If the Lord Emissary doesn't agree, then Zacharias would rather die than live in dishonor. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and said, Io, you really know how to talk nonsense. Unfortunately, I really can't agree to the third condition because I can't do it at all. Leonard was stunned and his gaze shifted to Leah. He had originally wanted Gu Meng Meng to agree to the first two conditions, but because Leah had brought this up, he added the third condition at the last minute. But now the messenger of the beast deity said she could not do it. Leah caressed Gu Meng Meng's little hand and kissed it. You don't have to look at me. If my Meng Meng says I can't do it, then I can't. Even if I can, I won't do it. Digression, today, he had wanted to write Grand Finale in the title. Come on. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. Such a joke might cause the brakes to malfunction and cause my little baby to fall. Chapter 965. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah in surprise. You can do it. Leah hesitated for a moment and didn't reply. He just smiled at Gu Meng Meng. Do you wish for me to do it or not? That meant he could do it. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and pinched Lee's arm lightly. She then turned to Leonard. All right, I agree to your three conditions. Gu Meng Meng had just finished her sentence and before Leonard could say his thanks, Dora, who had been silent all this while, struggled to speak. Wait. Her voice was dry and suffocating from Peter's grip on her neck. Gu Meng Meng waved her hands. Peter walked back to Gu Meng Meng's side as if nothing had happened. After regaining her freedom, Dora lay on the white tiger's back, panting heavily. After a long while, she finally looked up at Gu Meng Meng. I want to change the third condition. Gu Meng Meng lifted her chin at Dora. To be honest, Gu Meng Meng didn't have a good impression of Dora. The reason was simple. Gu Meng Meng liked Melinda. She hated anyone who bullied Melinda. But hating someone didn't mean she had to kill them. As long as they didn't come looking for trouble, Gu Meng Meng could turn a blind eye to them most of the time. But since she had spoken, Gu Meng Meng wanted to hear what kind of wish Dora, who had suggested Carter to imprison Melinda, would wish for. Hence, Gu Meng Meng said without any emotion, tell me. Because Peter had just strangled Dora, her eyeballs were popping out. The red mark on her neck was so obvious that Peter really didn't have a shred of pity for any other female. But Dora didn't seem to care. I want a male. Give him to me. Damn. Gu Meng Meng rubbed her chin. In any case, she could be considered as a beautiful flower, right? Did she look like a human trafficker? Lady, I'm sorry. I don't do human trafficking. Gu Meng Meng laughed coldly. Leonard frowned. His eyes, which had been bloodshot from worry and anger, were now filled with desolation and sorrow. He stood rooted to the spot and stared at Dora. He asked in a trembling voice, You still can't let him go, right? Dora turned back and bit her lip. I will never be able to let go of him. You, obviously know. Reynolds sighed and smiled bitterly. I know. Reynolds was a strong and imposing man, but in that instant, it was as if a mountain had collapsed. He looked dispirited and a little pathetic. He clenched his fists and slowly unclenched them. He gently held Dora's shoulders and said, Let the messenger help you wash these off first. Then I will go and capture him for you. You're so beautiful, so good, he won't refuse you. Duo-La's eyes were red. She had not cried even when she was almost strangled to death, but now she was crying her eyes out. She said, You know it's impossible, don't you? I have always left the position of first partner for him, but he has never looked back at me. Now that I'm dirty, he won't like me even more. Even so, you still want him? Leonard asked as he wiped away her tears. Yes. Dora gritted her teeth and said, Even if my body is filthy now, I still left this spot on my chest for him, didn't I? I want him, I must have him. Even if he doesn't love me, even if he hates me, even if I have to imprison him to keep him by my side, I still want him. Even if he dies, his corpse can only be mine. Digression, I like you. Ha, don't let your imagination run wild. That's why the first sentence is fake. Of course, the second sentence is also fake. Chapter 966. Dora tugged at her collar. Only then did Gu Meng Meng realize that although her body was covered in dense layers of marks, only her chest was empty. It looked like she was really determined to give it to someone. But, even if she had to imprison him, even if he died, his corpse would still be hers. Why did these words sound so creepy? Gu Meng Meng had thought that in the beast world, only males would have such a perverted view of love, and females would not be like that. It seemed like she was wrong. Leonard, I beg you, just let me be willful this once. I will only be willful this once in my entire life. Dora cried as she threw herself into Leonard's arms, her heart throbbing painfully. Leonard finally couldn't bear to reject her. He looked up at Gu Meng Meng and said, Messenger, please grant me my wish and give that person to her. Gu Meng Meng naturally wouldn't trade someone else's life. She was just a little curious, so she asked, The male you want is? Fei Rui. Dora said the name word by word, her voice trembling. Fei Rui. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and said, I'm sorry, Fei Rui, cannot be given to you. Why? Why not? Dora was very agitated. Her eyes widened to almost twice their original size. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, because, in exchange for saving his sister, he gave himself to me. He is now in Saint Nazaire, waiting for me to mate with him when I am in a good mood. How can I give my mail to you? Dora's body went limp and she collapsed into Leonard's arms, muttering to herself, how could this be? How could this be? Gu Mengmeng clapped her hands and said, what should I do? I can't seem to fulfill your 3 conditions. So you are not going to give me the soul of the forest. Then I will be leaving. With that, Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulder. Elvis turned to leave without any hesitation. Wait. Leonard called out to Gu Mengmeng and said, since Fei Rui is the Great Messenger's male, we naturally don't dare to covet him. Then, Great Messenger, please abide by the first 3 conditions. He had to leave a way out for the tribesmen of Zacharias. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah and he whispered into her ear, let me eat fish when we go back and I will wash the filth off her body. Gu Mengmeng knew that the fish Leah mentioned was definitely referring to a certain mermaid, but now was not the time to explain. She cupped Lee's face and kissed him, saying, we'll talk about it when we get back. Leah did not reject her. He just walked to Dora's side and sized her up. From tomorrow onwards, collect the dew on the leaves before sunrise and fill 2 stone bowls. Place the water bowl on the platform of the deity's punishment in your tribe. When we get the soul of the forest back, I will open the altar and offer it to the heavens to wash away her filth. Leonard nodded, then supported the sobbing Dora with both hands and said, good girl, don't be sad. Go back with them first and have a good sleep. No matter how long you need to forget him, I will wait with you. Dora didn't say anything. She didn't even give Leonard any reaction. She just let the tiger carry her as they walked back. After walking for a distance, Dora gripped the tiger's fur tightly. Her eyes were filled with venom and viciousness. Chapter 967. On the other side, after Leonard watched Dora leave, he instructed Witch Doctor Nick on a few matters regarding the tribe's management. Then, he came before Gu Mengmeng and bowed. All right, mighty messengers, we can set off now. Gu Mengmeng nodded without saying a word. She let Leonard lead the way while Gu Mengmeng and the rest followed behind him. Gu Mengmeng didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Leonard was leading them in circles around the Zacharias tribe. But every circle seemed a little different. Could it be that lonely old man from her family had set up a diversion? Gu Mengmeng had her suspicions but didn't voice them out. After walking for half a day, the moon was already high up in the sky and the stars were few and far between. Leonard finally stopped and said, it's here. But we can only see the entrance tomorrow morning. Gu Mengmeng nodded as a reply. Leonard said, the terrain here is a little complicated. Don't move around recklessly. I will go hunting. Without waiting for Gu Mengmeng to respond, Leonard had already left. Peter was still worried about him, so after giving Elvis a look, he followed Leonard away, in the name of helping. After the 2 of them left, Elvis and Leah, who had been holding back the entire journey, finally exploded. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's waist and said with a serious expression, you've already thought it through. Find a time to mate after returning to Saint Nazaire. No, no. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands in denial. Leah opened his mouth and bit Gu Mengmeng's left ear. He used a little force, leaving a bite mark but not breaking the skin. His long and narrow eyes were filled with jealousy as he said, I knew you were interested in that fellow. Back then, when he hurt my face, not only did you not blame him, you even protected him and blamed me for blocking the well with a rock to prevent him from coming out. Why? Now, you don't like my face anymore. You've changed your preferences. Do you care about that bland and inexperienced fellow now? No, no. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin. His deep blue eyes were filled with an unfathomable depth. His voice was low and filled with a murderous aura. You didn't give me or Leah the position of your heart. Are you going to give it to him? Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis. No, no, Leah said, I remember that you said you liked his eyes and said they were like bright stars. Since you like it, how about I dig it out and give it to you? If you take the eyes, don't like him anymore. Gu Meng Meng face-bombed. Calm down, can you listen to my explanation? Elvis and Leah kept their mouths shut, the words "please start your performance" clearly written on their faces. Gu Meng Meng was already mentally prepared. From the moment she said those words in front of Duola, she knew that she would definitely upset the two big vinegar vats in the house. Hence, she did not panic and just said, I don't like Fei Rue and Fei Rue has no such intentions towards me. The only reason I said that was because I couldn't bear to see Fei Rue, who was a good cabbage, be taken away by Dora. How about this, once we return to Saint Nazaire, I will chase Fei Rue back into the sea. If he doesn't scram, I will personally make him into sweet and sour fish slices. How about that? Actually, Elvis and Leah knew that there was nothing going on between Gu Meng Meng and Fei Rue. Chapter 968. But knowing was one thing. Hearing Gu Meng Meng admit that another male belonged to her still made Elvis and Leah feel disgusted. Gu Meng Meng also knew this, but she couldn't think of a better reason to reject Dora, so she just said it casually. It was precisely because she really didn't have any other feelings for Fei Rue that she dared to say such things in front of Elvis and Leah. If she liked Fei Rue even a little, she would definitely not say it in front of them. She would just extinguish the little flame in her heart as soon as possible. But luckily, she was already very satisfied with Elvis and Leah, and no longer had any strange thoughts about other males. Gu Meng Meng coaxed Elvis and Leah for a long time with her honeyed words, and even promised repeatedly that she would never admit another male as hers, before they reluctantly let her off. But, Leah gently hooked Gu Meng Meng's chin and said, Meng Meng, although what you said today was not true, it is true that I am upset. You clearly promised me that I would be your last partner, but you don't care about my feelings and even said in front of everyone that you want to take Fei Rue. My heart, it hurts so much. I care, how can I not care about your feelings? Gu Meng Meng caressed Lee's chest with her little hand. But Leah didn't buy it. He tilted his head and said, if you care about everything with your mouth, what about mute people? Gu Meng Meng, Leah inched forward and said, if you love me, do it for me to see. Gu Meng Meng thought for a moment, then stretched out her two little hands to form a heart. Lee's hand held onto Gu Meng Meng's little arm gently. Then, the two fingers of his other hand were like the two legs of a little person, walking along Gu Meng Meng's wrist step by step. That pair of long and narrow eyes followed his fingers all the way up, past her smooth shoulders, across her fair neck, and then gently caressing her cheeks. Finally, their gazes met and he said, you know very well that I'm not talking about this, right? Gu Meng Meng was completely stunned. They had been partners for more than a year, how could she not know what Leah was hinting at? That, let's talk about it when we return to Saint Nazaire after obtaining the soul of the forest. This is the wilderness. Leah looked down and said, you and Elvis only did it once in the wilderness, why can't you do it with me? Yes, she and Elvis did do it once on the way to the beauty pageant. But now, Gu Meng Meng still couldn't stop blushing. Shaking his head, he decisively refused, no, we still have business tomorrow morning. We have to conserve our strength. Leah, are you doubting my stamina? Meng Meng was, Gu Meng Meng was stunned. Every time that happened, it would only end after she fainted. She had never seen where Leah and Elvis's stamina was at. She, Ling, Yang and Mied, Meng Meng got it. By the time she finished speaking, Leonard and Peter had already returned with their prey. Gu Meng Meng used her eyes to plead for mercy. Leah ground his teeth. Promise us that you will compensate us after we return to St. Nazaire. Gu Mengmeng hurriedly agreed, and this matter was finally over. Chapter 969. What made Gu Mengmeng completely sober was the strange scene that appeared in front of her. The trees on both sides were intertwining at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if many pairs of hands were intertwining above their heads, forming a shady archway. The door was filled with white mist, giving off a familiar feeling. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and thought to herself, could it be that she would see her lonely old man sitting on the long bench watching television if she walked in through this door? Filled with doubts, Elvis had already carried Gu Mengmeng into the arched door. The fog blocked their vision, and even if Gu Mengmeng was in Elvis's arms, she could not even see his face, let alone others. "Hubby." Gu Mengmeng tried calling out. Elvis instinctively tightened his grip on Gu Mengmeng's hand, his voice echoing just inches away from her, "Yeah, I'm here." Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and called again, "Leah." A hand accurately held onto Gu Mengmeng's arm and a gentle voice soothed Gu Mengmeng's uneasiness. "I'm here too." Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief and shouted again, "Where are the others? Are they all here?" After receiving Wabi, Peter and Leonard's replies, Gu Mengmeng felt much more at ease. As he walked into the depths of the white fog, he could only rely on his body's senses to blindly confirm that he was heading inwards. Everywhere was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he couldn't tell the direction at all. Perhaps, this was all thanks to the lonely old man and her family. Every time she went to see him, there would always be this white fog. After a few times, she had gotten used to it. Otherwise, she would be even more uneasy now. Clattering sounds came from all directions. They were very soft and hard to distinguish. Gu Mengmeng's hearing was very good now, and with Snake's 1,000 years of memories, there should be nothing in the beast world that she could not distinguish. But she had no impression of this voice at all. "Leonard, how much do you know about the soul of the forest?" "Reynold, what the patriarch has passed down from generation to generation is that there is only one entrance. Our clansmen have never been here before." In other words, he only knew how to find the entrance. He didn't have much more information than Linley. Damn, he really brought a spectator in. "Xiao Meng, why don't we guard you while you take a nap?" Elvis asked. Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis meant for her to look for the beast deity to ask if there was any way to solve this white fog, so she directly replied, "I asked the last time and my father said that I am capable enough to deal with this problem." The deeper they went into the white fog, the clearer the rattling sound became. It also became sharper, as if it was issuing some sort of warning. Leah and Leonard were the first to have trouble breathing, but as they were separated by the white fog, Gu Mengmeng didn't notice anything wrong with them. It was only until her left ear started to hurt that she instinctively asked, "Leah, what's wrong with you?" Leah shook his head, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. "Leah?" Gu Mengmeng questioned. Leah then recalled that they could not see each other in the white fog, so Gu Mengmeng naturally could not see him shaking his head. He wanted to tell her that he was fine, that he was fine. But when he opened his mouth, no words came out. Chapter 970. Leah could not say a word. The suffocating feeling was as if someone was squeezing his throat and stuffing countless cotton balls into his lungs. But he did not want Gu Mengmeng to worry, so he just squeezed her wrist forcefully to indicate that he was still alive. Gu Mengmeng closed her eyes and held Lee's face based on her feelings. Then, she planted a deep kiss on Lee's lips. Then, Leah felt as if the blockage in his throat had been opened up. The cotton balls in his lungs also gradually melted away like cotton candy in contact with water, leaving only traces of sweetness spreading in his chest. After a long while, Leah let go of Gu Mengmeng. His lips moved up and landed lightly on her forehead. Then, he said in a gentle voice, "I'm fine, don't worry." The dull pain in her ears disappeared. Coupled with Lee's calm tone, Gu Mengmeng finally relaxed. Wabiai's voice came from the white fog. One fainted. I don't know who it is. I picked him up and brought him along. Hearing Wabiai's words, Gu Mengmeng called out everyone's names one by one. Only Leonard did not respond. She guessed that Wabiai had picked him up. Gu Mengmeng felt a little uneasy. So, as she wrapped one arm around Elvis's neck and the other tightly held onto Leah. This was the only way she could feel more at ease. After walking for a long time, there was still no end to the white fog. Gu Mengmeng was worried that Leah could not take it, so she asked, Leah, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Leah placed his other hand gently on the back of Gu Mengmeng's hand. No, I'm fine now. Gu Mengmeng felt more assured when she heard that Lee's tone was not forced at all. Then, she asked Elvis, Hubby, how about you? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Elvis wanted to say that he was fine, but he had promised not to hide anything from her. So, he answered honestly. My breathing is a little irregular and I feel strangely irritated. But luckily, I can take it. Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis would definitely be able to take it if he said so. But since she could make him feel more comfortable, why should she make him suffer? Thus, Gu Mengmeng's little mouth gently pressed against Elvis's lips. A light and lingering kiss brushed away the turbidity and frustration in Elvis's chest. That faint sense of irritation also subsided. No one knew how long they had been walking, but when Elvis stepped out of the white fog, the brightness in front of them burned everyone's eyes. Before Gu Mengmeng could react, Elvis had already pressed the back of her head and pressed her face against his chest. He whispered into her ear, Slow down, it's too glaring. Yes. Gu Mengmeng gradually got used to the light on Elvis's chest, then slowly opened her eyes. She only raised her head from Elvis's embrace when she was completely used to it. After a head count, Leonard had fainted and was being carried along by Wabiai's snake tail. Elvis and Leah remained by Gu Mengmeng's side while Peter stood slightly further away from them. His head was lowered and his features could not be seen clearly. They just felt that he was giving off a strange vibe, as if he was very irritated. Peter, are you all right? Gu Mengmeng probed. Peter clenched his fists tightly and kept his head down. After a long silence, he nodded as a reply. Chapter 971. Wabiai rolled his eyes at Gu Mengmeng with an impatient expression. He had come looking for a fight, but now he had become a nanny. So unhappy, so aggrieved, but he couldn't do anything to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng surveyed her surroundings. The vegetation here was lush, but different from the usual style in the beast world. The forests in the beast world were also lush, but the style was more like that of the Amazon primeval forest. But here, the style was more like the 3D special effects in the movie Avatar. It was as beautiful as the background in a fairy tale, giving off a surreal feeling. But, her lonely old man was clearly not here. Looking back at the place they had come from, the white fog was like a whirlpool, a little like the teleportation portal in online games. Leah made a mark at the exit, before the group started walking deeper into the forest. Every plant she saw here was a novel experience for Gu Mengmeng. It was as if she had fallen into a fairyland. Everything was too much for her eyes to take in. Suddenly, a murderous aura assaulted her from the back. Before Gu Mengmeng could turn around, she heard a cry behind her. Looking over, she saw Peter lying on the ground, his entire body covered in poison that was corroding his skin. Gu Mengmeng recognized this poison, it was snakes. In just a blink of an eye, Wabiai had already wrapped Peter up tightly with his snake tail. His eyes were filled with danger, and his fangs were secreting poison. Why did he attack me? Gu Mengmeng didn't understand. Elvis also had a lingering fear. He had been vigilantly guarding his surroundings, but didn't expect danger to come from his side. Luckily, Snake's mark was protecting her, or Gu Meng Meng would have been injured. After all, Peter was a proper stray beast. Concealing his murderous aura before attacking was his specialty. Frowning, Elvis pulled Gu Meng Meng deeper into his chest. It must be the influence of the white fog. I was also feeling very frustrated just now, and wanted to tear something to shreds. It was your kiss that calmed me down. Gu Meng Meng looked at Wabi. What about you? You also wanted to tear something to shreds. Wabi laughed coldly. I am not a brainless little wolf. How could I fall for it so easily? I held my breath the moment I entered the white fog. Talking about age again, Gu Mingming's heart twitched. Yes, the fact that she had slept with a 16-year-old wolf boy was a thorn in her heart. Besides, I'm a snake. Even if I feel irritated, I'll strangle it. Why would I want to tear something apart? Gu Meng Meng pouted. Little shit. What? Wabi expressed his displeasure at Gu Meng Meng calling him that. Gu Meng Meng giggled at Wabi's furious expression. It's alright, I was just casually shouting. I didn't expect you to actually agree. Hee, it seems like you've already recognized your own status. Scram! Wabi roared angrily. He glared at Gu Meng Meng, but his lips were curled into a smile. In the past, when Snake was around, he would start the fight straight away without any nonsense. It was only after he met Gu Meng Meng that he realized how interesting it was to have someone to bicker with. Peter and Leonard were in varying degrees of unconsciousness and were wrapped up by Wabi like luggage in the snake's tail. Then the group continued walking in. Chapter 972. Vines snaked all over the place, just like a blood-stained cave. Cobwebs were tightly woven and the faint red glow on the vines was like flowing blood, giving one the chills. Gu Meng Meng frowned and looked closely at the dark red flowing vines. The glowing and flowing parts were all on the veins of the leaves, just like human blood flowing in the blood vessels. Gu Meng Meng instinctively shrank her neck and snuggled into Elvis's arms. Scared? Elvis asked with concern. Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, this scene is like a survival in the wild version of a haunted house. It's a little scary. Then let's not go in and go back the way we came. Elvis really didn't care much about that soul of the forest. Not to mention that Qishuan's life was no longer in danger, even if his life was hanging by a thread and he needed that thing to save his life, he would not let Gu Meng Meng hold back her fear to take that thing. But Gu Meng Meng was different. She shook her head and said, I must get the soul of the forest. Why don't you and Leah wait here and I will go in and help you get it? Elvis suggested another solution. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and smiled. But I don't want to be separated from you. Then. Elvis met Gu Meng Meng's bright eyes and his heart softened into a mess. He could only kiss her brow dotingly and indulgently, saying, be good and hide in my arms, I will protect you. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head. Gu Meng Meng nodded obediently and rested her head on Elvis's shoulder. Elvis, Leah and Wabi exchanged glances and raised their attention to the highest level. They had never seen anything here before. Stepping into a completely foreign world made them feel very uneasy, especially when they were carrying a female that they could not allow to have any mishaps. Hence, they became even more cautious with every step they took. Leah walked in front to open the way while Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng in the middle. Wabi walked at the back, ready to use his snake tail to pull Gu Meng Meng out if anything happened. One of Lee's feet had just stepped into the range of the blood-red vines and before he could even lift his other foot, the vines had already started to move around, like countless blood snakes entangling and twisting, making rattling noises that made one's hair stand on end. Leah did not dare to move again and just watched the movements of the vines with his guard up. He waited until the vines stopped moving and confirmed that nothing dangerous had happened before he raised his hind legs and entered the place. With this step, the vines shook even more violently, and the rattling sounds became louder. Gu Meng Meng wanted Leah to retreat, but before she could open her mouth, those vines attacked Leah from all directions. Leah did not even have time to dodge before he was wrapped up by the vines and hung in midair. Then, he was quickly wrapped up into a cocoon. The mark on her left ear stung. Gu Meng Meng knew that Leah was injured, and it was a very serious injury. Elvis turned around and handed Gu Meng Meng over to Wabi. Without saying a word, he flew into the air and pounced towards that cocoon. He reached out his claws in midair, wanting to cut the vines in half to save Leah. But with one swipe of his claws, the vines did not even leave a mark, not to mention cutting them. Elvis's attack did not cause any damage and instead seemed to have angered those vines. So much so that Elvis had not even landed on the ground when he was already entangled by the vines. It was exactly the same as how he dealt with Leah. Aside from the topic, baby, today's update has ended. Chapter 973. In just a few breaths' time, there were already 2 red vine pupae in midair. Gu Meng Meng could sense that Elvis was releasing his beast pressure in an attempt to struggle, but the blood vines did not move at all, as if they were completely unaffected by the beast pressure. The same piercing pain came from her collarbone. Elvis was also injured. This realization drove Gu Meng Meng crazy. In that instant, she regretted it. If the price of obtaining the soul of the forest was losing Elvis and Leah, then she did not want it anymore. She would think of other ways to redeem her sons. She could not let anything happen to Elvis and Leah. With that thought in mind, Gu Meng Meng was already charging towards the red vines. She was the most powerful in the entire beast world. If there was anyone who had the ability to save them, it would be her. Before she could even step in, she felt something tighten around her waist. Her feet immediately left the ground and her body retreated backwards. The moment she stopped, Wabi's venomous eyes were inches away. His bone-chilling voice assaulted Gu Meng Meng's eardrums. "What do you want to do?" "I want to save my man." Wabi's snake tail wrapped tightly around Gu Meng Meng's waist. He gritted his teeth. "He exchanged his life for yours. I will not allow you to waste it anywhere." Gu Meng Meng bit her lower lip. She knew that Snake had sacrificed himself to save her life. She knew what she had lost to Snake. But no matter how guilty she felt, she could not watch Elvis and Leah die. "Stay here obediently. I will go save your little wolf pups and cunning foxes." Wabi let go of Gu Meng Meng. In his half-beast form, he was at least 2.5 meters tall. He was unbelievably imposing in front of Gu Meng Meng. He turned around with his back facing Gu Meng Meng. "Unless I die, I will not allow you to trample on his treasures." With that, Wabi shot into the range of the red vines like an arrow. His speed was faster than the vine's movement speed, so it was not easy for the vines to wrap around him. After over 800 years of battling with Snake, he was very clear on how to avoid damage in a linear attack. But even so, there were just too many vines to deal with. In the end, Wabi became the 3rd vine pupa in midair. Gu Meng Meng knew that Elvis and Leah would not be able to hold on much longer. She had no time to waste. Even though her body quality was far from a male's, she had Snake's strength. So when she neared the red vines, the moment the vines attacked her, she grabbed one of them and pulled it forcefully, tearing it apart. The end that was connected to the root seemed to be in great pain as it trembled and shrank back. The other end that was torn off was like a fish that was stranded on the shore, flopping around meaninglessly for a while before it stopped moving. Red liquid flowed out from the wound, and the corpse of the vine gradually became transparent as the red liquid flowed out. Gu Meng Meng did not know what this meant. She only knew that she had the ability to break the vines. This meant that she could save Elvis, Leah and Wabi. The vines did not continue to attack her like unintelligent creatures. Instead, they twisted together in groups of 3 to 5 before attacking her. The 3 vines twisted into a fried dough twist, the thickness of which was comparable to Gu Mingming's calf. She could not even grab hold of it, let alone pull it apart. Chapter 974. The vines didn't break, but they cut Gu Mingming's hand. Then, the vines in her hand were like fruits placed in a fruit dryer, withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, the red liquid slowly flowed into Gu Mingming's body through the wound on her palm like silk. Gu Mingming was at a loss at this sudden change and didn't know what to do. She could only open her palm and watch as the red vines gradually lost their color. Thousands of silk threads gathered in her palm and finally entered her body. Gu Mingming could feel an endless amount of energy flowing into her body, challenging and breaking through the limits of what her body could withstand. In the end, only the 3 pupae in mid-air were left in this sea of red. Ah! Gu Mingming screamed as she endured the pain from the swelling of her body. In an instant, the 3 pupae burst open. A black figure dashed towards Gu Mingming and caught her as she fell backward. He protected her in his arms and kissed her forehead. His heart ached for her sweaty and exhausted appearance. He whispered, "Xiao Meng, it's all right now, it's all right now." Wabi returned to Gu Mingming's side at almost the same time as Elvis. He just stood behind Gu Mingming, pursing his lips and not saying a word. And Leo was not as powerful as Elvis and Wabi. He was also the first to be wrapped in the pupae and was the weakest. He wanted to be like Elvis and use his last bit of energy to rush towards Gu Mingming. Even if he died, he wanted to die in her arms. But unfortunately, this was the difference in their abilities. He used his last bit of energy to break out of the pupae. Leah! After the pupae wrapped them up, the leaves became incomparably sharp. Lee's entire body was covered in wounds. Although he knew medicine and had protected his important arteries and larger blood vessels in advance, he was still covered in wounds from the leaves and was covered in blood. He heard Gu Mingming calling him, so he gritted his teeth and forced a smile as he slowly walked towards her. One step, another step. When he finally reached her, Gu Mingming was sobbing uncontrollably. Leah knelt down on one knee and caressed Gu Mingming's face. "Mingming, don't be afraid. I am here." Gu Mingming's consciousness was already on the verge of blurring. The last scene she saw was countless blood-like red liquid exploding on Lee's back, before shooting towards her like congealed blood needles. Her vision darkened and Gu Mingming fainted. As long as Elvis and Leah were fine, that was good. If she died, then so be it. In any case, she would only cause trouble for them. If it wasn't for her willfulness, the 2 of them would probably be able to live a better life. Someone kept calling her name by her ear, but she couldn't open her tired eyes. Her whole body sank down, lying in the position of a baby in its mother's womb, as if her whole body was soaked in a kind of scarlet blood. Silence. Everything was so quiet that it was suffocating. Even the traces of the flow of time couldn't create a single ripple here. After an unknown period of time, Gu Mingming finally opened her eyes slowly. It was just her eyelashes fluttering slightly, but this slight movement was like a stabilizing force that calmed Elvis and Lee's turbulent world. Chapter 975. After Gu Mingming regained her consciousness, she opened her mouth to speak but realized that her throat was extremely hoarse and so dry that it hurt. Elvis immediately brought a cup of water to her lips so that she could moisten her throat. This water was very sweet and different from what she had drunk in the past. There was no pollution in the beast world and all springs, streams, and rivers could be used directly. It had a special natural sweetness, but this cup was different. After drinking it, she could feel the sweetness spreading through her blood vessels to every part of her body. Her dry body felt as if it was being nourished and irrigated. That feeling was very magical. It was as if her body had been cleansed completely and she had become transparent and clean. Is everyone all right? Gu Meng Meng could finally speak. Elvis nodded and carried Gu Meng Meng into his arms like a princess. He deeply inhaled the fragrance of her hair to calm down the uneasiness he had been feeling for the past few days. His voice was tired and hoarse, but it was mixed with a different kind of gentleness. Only you were unconscious for 3 days and 2 nights, everyone else is fine. Gu Meng Meng nodded. Gu Meng Meng then nodded and felt much more at ease. Turning her head, Gu Meng Meng leaned her entire body against Elvis's chest and reached out a hand to caress Li's face. Her body was very tired but she tried her best to smile. It's great that you are all right. Gu Meng Meng's voice was a little weak. I was really scared when I saw you covered in blood before I fainted. Li covered Gu Meng Meng's hand with his large hand and pulled it from his face to his lips. He kissed it deeply and said, I'm sorry, I'm too weak and made you worry. Gu Meng Meng smiled and shook her head. It's not that you're too weak, it's that I brought you guys to a dangerous place. It's all my fault. I had no confidence at all and let you guys take the risk with me. Silly girl. Li's lips could not bear to leave this soft little hand. He had been holding it like this for the past 3 days, afraid that her hand would turn cold and he would never be able to lift it again. Now that this little hand was still warm and his Gu Meng Meng could still talk to him, the panic he had been suppressing for the past 3 days started to flare up. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Partners exist to protect you and do whatever you want. If I can't protect you, it will be my sin. Gu Meng Meng did not argue with Leah about the beast world's views on love. After all, in the beast world, where, if you don't act, you won't love me, it was really hard for Gu Meng Meng to tell them not to be too petty in love. Elvis pulled Gu Meng Meng's shoulders to make her sit up straight, then he sat opposite her. His blue eyes stared deeply at Gu Meng Meng as he frowned with a serious expression. Gu Meng Meng had never seen Elvis facing her so seriously before. She panicked for a moment and subconsciously smiled to please him, asking, Hubby, what's wrong? Elvis did not say a word and just stared deeply at Gu Meng Meng. His thin lips were pressed into a straight line, giving off an oppressive feeling as if a storm was brewing. Gu Meng Meng felt that Elvis was angry this time, but she did not know what he was angry about, so she looked at Leah for help. Unexpectedly, Li's eyes darkened and he actually sat beside Elvis. Chapter 976. What exactly happened? Gu Meng Meng asked cautiously. Elvis took 2 deep breaths before saying slowly, Why didn't you escape then? Ah. Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis in confusion. Escape? When? Where to escape to? Leah continued Elvis's words and continued, Wabi, I already told us that when we were entangled by the blood vines, you had the chance to escape. But not only did you not escape, you even charged towards the blood vines. Li's tone was gentler than Elvis's but his words were full of reproach. This made Gu Meng Meng feel as if she did not stay behind to save them, but just ran away without a care in the world. Wasn't this state of mind reversed? Shouldn't he be extremely touched, kissing, hugging and raising her high up in the air? Why was he acting as if she was having an affair and wanted to divorce him? Xiao Meng, you promised us that you would prioritize your own safety under any circumstances. Every word of Elvis sounded as if he had used a knife to pry open his heart and grinded his words with his blood. Gu Meng Meng felt a throbbing pain in her heart just by listening to him. She could feel her heart throbbing in pain. I remember. Gu Meng Meng's voice softened and she frowned, but did not look like she was admitting her mistake. She said stubbornly, but the situation this time is special. If I didn't help, you and Leah would have died. How could Elvis not know that Gu Meng Meng was risking her life for them? It would be a lie to say that he was not touched. He was so touched that he wanted to dig out his own heart and crush it to appease the strange movements in his chest. But, It is my honor to die for you. Clenching his teeth, he carefully polished every inch of Gu Mingming's worries during the 3 days she was unconscious. With the blood in his heart, he ground it into cinnabar and dripped it between his lips. He used his words to let her clearly see the wound on his heart and how painful and fatal it was. If anything happens to you, the both of us will not be able to die in peace. Leah had said these words to her before. At that time, they were still in the Snake King Valley and Snake was still alive. She used her body to block in front of Elvis to prevent Snake from using his snake tail to whip Elvis, but in the end, Elvis protected her in his arms and forcefully received Snake's tail. At that time, she begged Leah to quickly save Elvis, but Leah held her shoulders and said, if anything were to happen to you, we wouldn't be able to rest in peace. If we still have any weight in your heart, promise me that you will prioritize your own safety under any circumstances. She remembered what she had promised. But if she really wanted to watch Elvis and Leah die while she stayed out of it and escaped, she could not do it. Raising her head, Gu Mingming's eyes reddened. Let me tell you, I regret it. No matter how many times in the future, as long as you and Leah are in danger, I will not care about anything else and rush over to save you. If you die, I won't live alone. Xiao Meng. This was the first time Elvis had shouted at her like this. In the past, no matter what she did, no matter how willful she was, Elvis had never shouted at her like this. Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and tears rolled down her cheeks. She refused to give in and roared, it's useless even if you roar at me. I just can't live without the two of you. What can you do about it? Bite me if you can. Hearing Gu Mengmeng roaring this sentence in a provocative tone, Elvis and Leah felt their chests hurting from the shock. Chapter 977. Elvis clenched his fists for a long time before finally giving in to Gu Mingming's tears. Hugging her in his arms, Elvis sighed deeply. I want to protect your smile, but I always make you cry. I am still too weak. Snake's last words to him were like an awl hanging over his heart. Whenever Gu Mengmeng was hurt or wronged, it would fall down and stab him viciously. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. You have already done very well, really very well, but you still cried. Elvis cupped Gu Mingming's little face, his heart aching for her. He kissed away her tears and stared into her reddened eyes. You clearly know that I am helpless against your tears, but you still cry and force me to give in. Wabi walked over and snorted coldly. Are you done with your nonsense? Are you still going to take the soul of the forest? Gu Mingming's face was still covered in tears. She turned to look at Wabi. Oh, little shit, you are not dead, Wabi gritted his teeth. I have already said that the only person who can kill me in this world has been killed by you. So I will not die. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Yes, people say that a scourge lives for 1,000 years, so you can at least live for another 200 years. Wabi realized that he had no advantage over Gu Mengmeng at all. He could not win in a fight, nor could he win in an argument. In the end, he just rolled his eyes in anger and didn't say anything else. But with Wabi's interference, Gu Mengmeng stopped crying. Sniffing, she looked around and realized that she was no longer with the blood vines. She asked, were you all hurrying along when I was unconscious? Elvis shook his head. When you were unconscious, we didn't dare to move you for fear of an accident. So we did not move from the same spot. Gu Mengmeng was extremely confused. The surrounding scenery was crystal clear, as if it was a world carved out of crystal. It was pure white and transparent, so clean that one could not bear to touch it for fear of tarnishing its purity. Where was the sinister look of the blood vines? If the blood vines were like a blood-stained cave, then this place was like the Jade Lake Palace in the 9 heavens. If one looked closely, it would not be difficult to discover that the crystalline plant was extremely similar to the blood vines. This is Gu Mengmeng stared at it blankly for a long time before she recalled the dazzling red silk that gathered in her palm before she fainted. Spreading open his palm, the wound on his palm had already healed completely. There was no trace of it at all. Gu Mengmeng mumbled in a daze, so it wasn't a hallucination caused by my severe injuries. I really sucked the blood from the blood vines into my body. When did I become so capable? Elvis did not see the entire process of her absorption, but he did see the process of her absorbing the 3 vine chrysalises. Now that he saw her staring at her palm in a daze, he could not help but worry and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Mengmeng looked at him and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I just felt a huge amount of energy entering my body at that time, but now I don't feel anything." Only then did Elvis heave a sigh of relief. "There's something strange about this place, we shouldn't stay here for long. We'd better end this quickly and return after taking the soul of the forest." Chapter 978. For some strange reason, Gu Mengmeng reached out a hand. That blood vine, oh, no, it should be called crystal vine now. The crystal vines intertwined with each other and formed a palm-like shape. Mimicking Gu Mengmeng's actions, it lightly stuck onto her palm. Then, with a rustling sound, the crystal vine in front of them parted to reveal a fairyland in front of Gu Mengmeng's group. Elvis and Leah exchanged a look but didn't say a word. Leonard walked forward and bowed to Gu Mengmeng. "I was here to help, but I didn't expect to become a burden. This time, let me lead the way." Gu Mengmeng didn't say a word and just nodded. Humans were all selfish. She didn't want Elvis and Leah to take any more risks. If they ended up in a cocoon and hung in midair again, Gu Mengmeng would go crazy. Peter felt guilty for attacking Gu Mengmeng, but he wasn't someone who would apologize. To him, rather than saying sorry 100 times, it was better to do something right to make up for it. Moreover, he didn't trust Leonard. So he didn't say a word and just silently walked to Leonard's side to lead the way. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and followed behind them, while Leah stood by Elvis's side, protecting Gu Mengmeng from both sides. After all, he had the advantage of being longer. If there was a special situation, he could use his tail to fish Gu Mengmeng back. The group walked along the path that the crystal vine had guided them. The scenery was beautiful, but no one was in the mood to appreciate it. Gu Mengmeng couldn't stand the silence and poked Leah. "I just thought of something." Leah glanced at her and replied gently, "MMM." Gu Mengmeng said, "Do you remember, when I was in the deep sea, I told you that I had a dream? I dreamt that there was an endless amount of blood exploding in the sky behind you, and you came drenched in blood. That scene coincided with the last scene I saw before I fainted. It was exactly the same." Leah smiled playfully. "Could it be that father-in-law gave you the heaven's eye of prophecy?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "How is that possible? Our lonely old man is very stingy. I don't know why he never gives me extra pocket money. If he really has the heavenly eye, he won't give it to me unless he drags me to watch 8 or 10 episodes of a TV series." Leah had heard too many of Gu Mengmeng's complaints about the beast deity. From the initial panic, he could now laugh it off. He nodded and said, "That could just be a coincidence." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and said hesitantly, "If it's a coincidence, it's too much of a coincidence. The images are so accurate that every frame is exactly the same." Leah knew that Gu Mengmeng had a photographic memory after inheriting Snake's abilities, so he did not suspect that she had remembered wrongly. It was just a dream, so Leah did not take it to heart. He just rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and told her not to think too much. Gu Mengmeng thought about it and agreed. It was a waste of time to make wild guesses. She could just ask that lonely old man the next time she met him. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly heard an anguished wail. Gu Meng Meng seemed to have been scared out of her wits by the blood vines. Once she heard the wails, she immediately looked around with a face full of wariness. Chapter 979. Is the poison in the white fog acting up again? Gu Meng Meng asked in confusion. Leah shook his head and used his body to shield Gu Meng Meng. He glanced sideways at her. Don't you find him rather familiar? Gu Meng Meng frowned. She had no impression of him. Leah sighed. That's true. Cole is a 5th-level beast after all. He looks better when he's suffering from the backlash. Backlash? Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. She suddenly recalled the day when they had a showdown with Cole. She had used the backlash of the mating contract to defeat Cole. That day, Cole was also in extreme pain. But he was not as writhing and trembling as Leonard was now. Did something happen to Dora? Gu Meng Meng understood what Leah meant. Leah nodded. Most likely. Gu Meng Meng frowned as she watched Leonard struggling in pain. He had no other way to deal with the backlash of the mating contract. No one could help him. Zacharias is heavily guarded. How could something happen to Dora in the tribe? Gu Meng Meng could not understand. Lee's lips curved up in disdain. No matter how heavily guarded the tribe is, it can't stop an idiot from courting death. Gu Meng Meng sighed. She didn't say anything else. After all, they were all here. No one knew what had happened outside. The only thing she could do now was to wait and see if Leonard could survive the backlash of the mating contract. To be honest, even though she had Snake's memories in her body and was used to seeing bloodshed, Gu Meng Meng still felt her heart wrench at Leonard's cries and pain. How much pain did he have to be in? How could such a man, who could remain unfazed even in the face of Mount Tai collapse, be in such a pathetic state? His eyes were bulging and bloodshot. She couldn't tell if it was tears or sweat, but they flowed down his face. Ah! Every cry came from the deepest part of his chest. Gu Meng Meng had personally witnessed what it meant to tear one's heart and lungs apart. A pair of sharp claws fiercely scratched at his chest, as if he wanted to dig out his heart and crush it to end this bone-piercing pain. However, he didn't know what made him resist this desire to dig out his heart and forcibly stop the sharp claws that had already sunk into his chest. After a long while, when Gu Meng Meng really wanted to give him a quick death, Leonard finally calmed down. At this moment, there was not a single piece of uninjured skin on his body. He looked like a demon that had crawled out of hell. His eyes were sinister and venomous. He trembled as he stood up, ignoring the blood that was still flowing out of his body. He only muttered, "Revenge, I have to avenge Dora. Dora, wait for me. I will come for you after I kill him. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Even in hell I will protect you." As Reynolds spoke, he turned back the way he came. Gu Meng Meng did not stop him and just let him leave. She didn't know if Leonard could survive that white fog. After all, he had fainted halfway and it was Wabi who had brought him out. But at this moment, his gaze was too determined. Gu Meng Meng deeply understood that revenge was his only reason for surviving. But who was he going to find for revenge? And how was he going to do it? Gu Meng Meng didn't know and didn't ask. Chapter 980. After Leonard left, Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis's neck in silence for a long time. Elvis and Leah both thought that she was feeling upset after witnessing that scene because she was soft-hearted, but did not know how to comfort her. Afraid that they would say something wrong and make her even more upset, they could only remain silent. The group continued walking forward. After a long while, Gu Meng Meng suddenly said, "Hubby, I will definitely protect myself well in the future. I will definitely not let you and Leah experience what Leonard did." Both Elvis and Leah paused for a moment before they smiled. Females in the beast world had always viewed themselves as the most precious, and protecting themselves from any injuries was a basic norm. Only this little female and their family would rush to any dangerous place without stopping. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's cheek, and said with indulgence and some helplessness, "You finally have some self-awareness as a female." Elvis also chuckled and kissed Gu Mingming's serious face, saying, "No matter what, knowing how to protect yourself is always a good thing. Don't forget it the moment you turn your head." Gu Mengmeng swatted away Lee's hand that was pinching her face, then leaned against Elvis's neck, whispering, "I will not forget, because I cannot bear to see you all suffer. When I saw Leonard rolling on the ground in pain just now, I was thinking, if it was you or Leah lying there, my heart would ache so much." Gu Mengmeng, who never knew how to avoid danger and would often use herself as bait, learned to protect herself for them. Her heart was very warm. Kissing Gu Mingming's brow, Elvis only said one word, "Be good." After walking for a long while, they finally reached the end of the crystal vines. There was only one tree there, and it was so thick that it would require a few people to encircle it. Its roots were the size of a football field, and the roots closest to the trunk were even thicker than Wabiai's body. It could already be considered a sacred tree. If it was in the modern world, it would be listed as a protected area. Gu Mengmeng jumped down from Elvis's arms and walked towards the tree on her own. Elvis, Leah and the rest followed closely behind, but it was as if they were stopped 200 meters away by an invisible barrier, unable to take another step forward. Even Wabiai could not move an inch forward even with all his might. But Gu Mengmeng walked over without any obstacles. Turning around, Gu Mengmeng smiled at Elvis and Leah and said, "Don't worry, I can feel that it has no ill intentions and is not dangerous." Elvis and Leah frowned at the thought of the aggressive nature of the blood vines. If he didn't have any ill intentions, why didn't he allow them to get close? Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else and just turned around to continue approaching the tree. The leaves on the tree glowed like emeralds, layer upon layer covering the clouds and the sun. Gu Mengmeng looked up and saw a leaf floating down leisurely, landing right in her palm. It was cool to the touch and had a weight that did not belong to a plant. Gu Mengmeng scrutinized that piece of leaf. Then, she saw that the leaf gradually disappeared into her palm as if it had melted into her palm and into her body. Chapter 981. Gu Mengmeng stood under the tree. She looked like she was in a daze, but in fact, she was not thinking about anything. She was just feeling the changes in her body. She could feel the indescribable changes happening to her body from the bottom of her heart. After a long time, when the feeling of change stopped, she raised her hand and gently stroked the rough tree trunk. Then, at the position of her fingertips, a tender shoot grew out. There were only 2 branches, one on the left and one on the right. The leaves on the branches were curled up like a baby's swaddling clothes. The tender green was clearly thin, but it exuded a kind of vitality. A soft, crisp sound was heard. That tender branch fell from the tree trunk and landed right in Gu Mingming's palm. "This should be the soul of the forest," Gu Mengmeng muttered to herself. At the same time that the branch fell, the barrier blocking Elvis and Leah also disappeared. They almost instantly rushed to Gu Mingming's side. Elvis directly pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms and hugged her deeply. He only calmed down when he was sure that she was unscathed. Hearing Elvis heave a sigh of relief above her head, Gu Mingming's lips curled up slightly. She showed them the branch in her palm and said, "I got the soul of the forest." Elvis originally did not care much about Qi Xian, so this ransom was not even worth mentioning to him. It was just that Gu Mengmeng had spent a lot of effort to obtain this stupid branch. He did not want to spoil her mood, so he gave it a mild look and said, Keep it well. Let's go back." Gu Mengmeng nodded and used a small piece of beast skin to wrap the soul of the forest. Then, she placed it back into her snake skin pocket. The road back seemed to be smoother than when they came. There were not as many accidents and the journey was exceptionally smooth. But when they exited the Crystal Vines area, they could not find the white fog door that they came from. It was not that they could not find it, but there were too many of them. She did not know which one was the real one. All the doors looked exactly the same. Even the markings that Leah had left behind were exactly the same. Gu Mengmeng did not know what to do. Would there be any accidents if she randomly chose one to enter? Just as she was hesitating, a familiar voice came from one of the doors. "Ah, Gu, I'm here to pick you up." With that, Cole stepped out of the white fog with one foot while the other was still in the fog. Half of his body poked out of the white fog door, and he stretched out his hand in a welcoming gesture. Gu Mengmeng frowned in displeasure. Even though Cole's appearance had solved her problem of not being able to tell which door was which, but it could not hide the fact that she felt annoyed every time she saw him. "What are you doing here?" Gu Mengmeng was not in a good mood. She would not accept Cole's kindness just because he had pointed out the correct door, nor would she refuse to enter out of spite just because Cole was the one who pointed it out. Upon receiving Gu Mingming's signal, Elvis directly ignored Cole and walked past him through the white fog door. She had just stepped one foot in when the white fog started to roll, as if the thick clouds were being stirred up by a hurricane. Wave after wave surged towards Gu Mengmeng. Stunned for a moment, she took out the soul of the forest from her pocket. As expected, the white fog was sucked into the soul of the forest like a leak in a bathtub. Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. She smiled and said, "Planting trees is indeed the fundamental solution to prevent and control the smog." Aside from the topic, tomorrow was Susu's birthday. "Will my babies come and wish me happy birthday? I'm looking forward to it." Chapter 982. As Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng forward, the white fog followed Gu Mengmeng into the soul of the forest. When they were halfway there, the visibility was much higher than when they came. At the very least, they could see each other's vague silhouettes. Cole then opened his mouth and said, "Ah, Gu, do you intend to accept that fish?" Gu Mengmeng frowned. At the same time, she could feel the intense murderous aura emanating from Elvis and Leah. She had already explained about Fei Rui and they had, temporarily, believed her. But this matter could not be brought up again. As long as she did not chase Fei Rui back into the ocean, the two of them would not be at ease. It was also Gu Mingming's fault for saying such a stupid excuse to fool Dora. Speaking of Dora. Gu Mingming's gaze darkened as she looked at Cole. When she said she wanted to accept Fei Rui, there were not many people present. Other than the group around her, there were only Dora, Leonard, and the witch doctor from Zacharias, Nick. So, how did Cole know about this? Gu Mengmeng frowned as she recalled the backlash from the mating contract with Leonard. She pursed her lips and did not say a word. Cole chuckled softly, as if he was trying to hold back his laughter. He looked up with a pair of eyes that were 80% similar to Lee's. His gaze seemed ambiguous through the white fog. His voice carried an uncomfortable sense of joy. "I realized that you looked so good when you were thinking about me wholeheartedly." Gu Mengmeng snorted in disdain. She did not say a word and just turned her face to the other side. She felt very aggrieved. From a certain perspective, Cole was right. She was really thinking of him just now. Seeing her like this, Cole twisted her disgust into shyness. His smile deepened. "Ha, all right, I won't tease you anymore. If you want to know, I can tell you." Gu Mengmeng was not interested. Actually, she had already guessed most of what had happened. Even if it was slightly different from the truth, it was not far from it. Most importantly, she did not want to hear Cole speak. She would feel disgusted the moment he opened his mouth. But Cole clearly did not want to give up the chance to show his presence in front of Gu Mengmeng. He just continued. "You should have realized it long ago, right? How could that stupid female Dora have the brains to strategize? I was the one who taught her how to frame Melinda. With that, Cole paused for a moment. He suddenly smiled with some contempt and continued. But she is really good at stirring up other people's feelings. I just casually gave her a few pointers and she actually learned it well. She instigated Carter to snatch the mermaid tribe's territory and severely injured Fay Rue. She really thought that Fay Rue would be hers if he had nothing left and was at his wit's end. As expected, this matter was related to Cole again. Was it a surprise? It was hard to say. Initially, Gu Mengmeng did not think it was Cole, but after Cole admitted everything, Gu Mengmeng could not find a reason to be surprised. How should I put it? She felt that it wasn't strange that all the bad things in the world were related to him. In Gu Mengmeng's heart, the two of them were the source of all evil. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng asked coldly, since she was a useful chess piece, why did you kill her? The white fog had thinned and Cole was not far from Gu Mengmeng. She could even see his expression clearly now. His eyes were like black peach blossoms, and there was a trace of affection in them. Didn't you fall for Fay Rue? How can I allow others to covet what you like? Aside from the topic, baby, do you want to say happy birthday to me? Chapter 983. Just because of this. Gu Mengmeng did not like Dora, but not to the extent of wanting to kill her. Gu Mengmeng would not be able to live with the fact that she had caused a precious female to lose her life because of a lie she had told. Especially, after personally witnessing the pain Leonard had to endure because of this. Cole thought for a moment before shaking his head. Because of this, but not just because of this. That female Dora is too stupid. Gu Mengmeng did not understand. Sometimes she really wanted to try and understand what Cole was thinking, because then she might be able to find a way to rescue Qi Xian from his hands. But no matter how hard she tried, Gu Mengmeng could not succeed. A normal person would never understand the world of a lunatic. Cole looked into Gu Mengmeng's eyes and filtered out the disgust in them. He only admired the way those clear eyes were focused on him. He chuckled. Those eyes were so clean. If she could possess 30% bloodlust, 30% cruelty, 30% malevolence and 10% lust for him, how perfect would that be? But it was all right. He could take it slow and eventually achieve it. Even if she could not do it, he could slowly infuse all of these into her eyes. Chuckling, Cole said, as a reward for her obedience, I gave her a team of underwater stray beasts to help her fulfill her wish to snatch Fay Rue away and imprison him. But she was too greedy. Not only did she want to snatch Fay Rue away, she also wanted to kill Melinda, and even set her sights on you. She wanted to snatch the kiss of the ocean, using my men to snatch my things from my woman. Don't you think she is extremely stupid? Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth. I am not your woman. Cole turned a deaf ear to Gu Mengmeng's declaration. No matter what Gu Mengmeng said, she would be his sooner or later. Of course, only Cole thought this way in the entire world. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to kill Cole when she saw his face. But she did not dare to do so. She did not know if Qi Xian would jump out from nowhere to block her when she was about to kill Cole. As long as she did not snatch Qi Xian back, she would not be able to do anything to Cole. That was why he dared to appear in front of her and disgust her so blatantly, right? That stupid female kept emphasizing her great love to me. She said that although her methods were despicable, it was only because she loved Fay Rue too much. Did you know? She even showed off her clean body in front of me, saying that she wanted to give her first time to Fay Rue and make him her first partner. That look of longing for a beautiful future really made people want to shatter it. So, when she was imprisoned as a clan slave, I used a little bit of the fox seductive fragrance to make a school of male fish trample her laughable dream into dust. But unfortunately, Her look of despair was not good to look at, and even made me feel that it was very boring. As Cole said, it was as if he was commenting on a handicraft that had failed on the verge of success. No matter how close the process was to perfection, it was still a mess and could not return to its original form. Gu Mengmeng frowned as she listened. Dora choosing to cooperate with Cole was equivalent to making a deal with the devil. She was not innocent, and it could even be said that she had brought this upon herself. But hearing Cole's explanation, Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt that Dora was rather pitiful. Chapter 984. I wanted Dora to just die like that. Cole continued. Suddenly, he laughed and said, but I unexpectedly found out something interesting. A tiger who yearned for the sea once met a female mermaid by the sea and fell deeply in love with her. It's a pity that tigers cannot survive in the deep ocean, and since there are so few mermaid females, they would never leave the ocean to live on land. Tiger. Huh, wasn't Leonard just a tiger? Gu Mengmeng gave a disdainful chuckle. Why taint the word accident? Didn't you choose to make use of Dora from the very beginning because you saw this added value in her? Cole's eyes brightened. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with obvious approval. Ah, Gu is indeed Ah Gu. She is so different from those foolish females. Gu Mengmeng was not at all happy to be praised by Cole. She stared at Cole coldly and didn't say another word. Cole was still smiling. He said in a, I really don't know what to do with you, tone, all right, I admit it. From the start, I knew that the female mermaid Leonard had his eyes on was Dora. But Dora only wanted Fei Rui. She would never leave with Leonard. So I could only play a little trick to help this pair of lovers be together. Play a little trick. Ha, Gu Mengmeng despised Cole a million times in her heart. He used these few words to describe Dora's hellish torment as a slave of the clan. He had used the fox's seductive fragrance to attract the male fish to torture Dora. Part of it was his vulgar sense of humor, but more importantly, it was to make Dora's heart break down and sink into despair. This was the only way for Dora to hug Reynold tightly when he appeared, as if clutching at a life-saving straw. And the clueless Leonard would only feel heartache over the torment his beloved had suffered. Step by step, he would fall into Cole's trap. The most important part was that Cole had predicted that Dora would never be able to obtain Fei Rui. Because once Dora obtained Fei Rui, she would devote all her attention to Fei Rui and would never work for Cole again. In other words, from the very beginning, Cole had never intended for Dora to obtain Fei Rui. He had lied to her. He had lied to her right from the start. As for Dora, it was probably only on her deathbed that she understood. Using Fei Rui to keep Dora hanging, instigating Carter to imprison Melinda, forcing Fei Rui into a corner. Then, he would intentionally leak news of the kiss of the ocean to Fei Rui. Eager to save his sister, Fei Rui would naturally head to Saint Nazaire to look for Gu Mengmeng. Cole did not need to interfere in the subsequent matters. He only needed to manipulate a few chess pieces at the crucial moment to easily achieve his goal. Once Reynold rescued Dora, he would use Fei Rui to summon Dora again. Dora had done so much for Fei Rui. She would not be satisfied if she could not have Fei Rui. So, Dora would definitely listen to Cole and instigate Leonard to take in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. Then, she would go to Sauter to ask for peace and use the soul of the forest in exchange for Gu Mengmeng's forgiveness. Was this the real reason why Cole wanted Gu Mengmeng to go to Sauter before winter? He had to ensure that Leonard would be able to find Gu Mengmeng when he went to sue for peace. Thinking about it this way. Chapter 985. Cole stared at Gu Mengmeng with an even more amazed expression. He said with anticipation, My Gu is so smart. Tell me, what else can you think of? I'll tell you everything you've guessed. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and turned away from Cole. She didn't want to speak to Cole anymore. She was afraid that she would lose control and strangle Cole to death. She was even more afraid that if she continued, she would kill herself on impulse. There were clues everywhere. Why didn't she see it back then? The stray beasts had attacked them at the bottom of the sea. Their 100-strong team had been reduced to a few kittens. Carter was severely injured, while Fei Rue, who was weaker than him, only had a few superficial wounds. And she had clearly noticed that the stray beasts were intentionally attacking Melinda. She had just thought that it was to restrain Carter and Fei Rue. Now that she thought about it, it was Dora who wanted to kill Melinda and snatch Fei Rue away. But there was one thing that Gu Mengmeng couldn't understand. Melinda was Fei Rue's biological sister. She wasn't a threat to Dora. Why did she hate Melinda so much that she was willing to risk the chance to snatch Fei Rue away just to kill Melinda? Was it an intolerable relationship between a lover's sister? Or was there something else between her and Melinda that wasn't their relationship? She couldn't figure it out and had nowhere to ask. Dora was dead. The reason why she could not tolerate Melinda had become a thing of the past. With Dora's death, the dust had settled. Gu Mengmeng didn't pursue the matter further. She just buried her face in Elvis's neck and whispered, "I'm tired. Let's sleep for a while." Let's sleep. Elvis supported her but with one hand and patted her back with the other, patting her gently in a rhythmic manner. Leah had been standing between Gu Mengmeng and Cole. His furry tail seemed to be swaying nonchalantly, but it blocked Cole's line of sight completely. It was fine when his Gu Mengmeng wanted to talk to Cole. But now that his Gu Mengmeng was about to sleep, Cole was still looking at her shamelessly. Cole looked at Leah and chuckled. "Ninth Highness, aren't you a little too impatient? This kind of childish behavior. Ha, it will only make me feel that treating you as an opponent is simply an insult to myself." Leah was neither angry nor amused. He just looked at Cole coldly and said, "Childish. But my Meng said that this is called a child's heart, and she likes it very much." Leah was filled with disdain. If Cole had tried to goad him into action in the past, he might have fallen for it, or at least his emotions would have been affected. But when they were carving the 36 stratagems on the wall of the meeting room, Gu Mengmeng had told them the gist of these stratagems as she watched them carve. These days, he had been pondering over and over again when he had nothing to do, and now he had mastered it thoroughly. It would not be as easy as before for Cole to use these tricks against him again. Cole also knew that Leah had learned the 36 stratagems before, so he did not think that he would succeed in goading him into action. It was just a test. Ha! Cole chuckled and said, Gu has contributed a lot to Ninth Highness growth. I'm getting more and more interested in her. She can even train an innocent person like you to this extent. If she were to be with me. Chapter 986. Cole chuckled but didn't answer Lee's question. He wasn't angry either. Dirty? It didn't matter, as long as Gu was as dirty as him. So, as long as she liked them, he would send them to her bed, no matter how many males there were, for her to pick and play with. As long as he was the one standing by her side in the end, everything would be fine. Cole didn't say anything else. Leah also couldn't be bothered to waste time with him. The group didn't say anything else until the white fog was completely absorbed by the soul of the forest in Gu Mengmeng's hands. Only then did they see that under the white fog, there was a natural tunnel formed by the intersecting trees above their heads. It was just like the long corridor where princes and princesses would walk hand in hand when they got married. Sunlight shone down, creating countless rays of light that added a sense of romance and warmth to the long corridor. If Wabi and Cole weren't around, this scene would be the most beautiful and romantic. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to talk to Cole and he didn't continue chattering. They finally reached the end of the path. Gu Mengmeng lay on Elvis's shoulder, her face facing the path they had walked through. She didn't turn back, but Gu Mengmeng could feel a cold murderous intent behind her. This murderous intent wasn't directed at her. Elvis, Leah and Wabi were all around. Even if she wasn't a beast king and was just an ordinary female, no one could hurt her in front of the three of them. She turned back with a probing look. Meeting Leonard's bloodshot eyes, Gu Mengmeng frowned. Seeking revenge. Gu Mengmeng muttered softly. It wasn't a question, but a statement. On the way here, Cole had already admitted that he was the one who killed Dora. Hence, it was obvious who Leonard was waiting for. Cole didn't seem surprised by Leonard's appearance. His smile turned chilly as he said, "You have disappointed me again. Little Xian." Gu Mingming's body stiffened at the last word. Just a moment ago, she had been standing by as if this matter had nothing to do with her. But now, her beautiful eyes were searching everywhere. Little Xian, Qi Xian. The smell of blood filled her nostrils. Gu Mengmeng carefully identified it for a long time before realizing that it was Qishuan's scent. Cole was not lying to her. Qi Xian was here and he was injured. She glanced sharply at Cole, but he shrugged his shoulders innocently and said, "Little Xian was the one who requested to stop Leonard and let me go in to fetch you. I was just following Little Xian's wishes." Reynold was a level 4 orc. Even though he had just suffered from the backlash of the mating contract, the difference in levels was huge. How could Qi Xian, a newly evolved level 1 orc, defeat him? Cole was forcing Qi Xian into a dead end. Clenching her fists tightly, Gu Mengmeng squeezed out 2 words from the gaps of her teeth, "Ku." "Og." Cole chuckled and replied with a sweet smile, "Aw Gu, you're looking at me so intently again, it's so nice. I'll kill you." Gu Mingming's eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred. He looked into Gu Mingming's eyes with a look of enjoyment. "Yeah, I'm very honored to be the first soul whose name is remembered in your hands. Throw open my chest and use my blood to establish your bloodthirsty rule. I will be the first soul whose name is remembered in your hands. With Xian accompanying me on the road to the Yellow Springs, I'm not afraid of loneliness." Intimidation, this was blatant intimidation. Cole was saying that if he died, Qi Xian would be buried with him. Chapter 987. Gu Mengmeng was being carried by Cole. She clenched her fists tightly to stop her body from trembling. At the same time, Leonard had already rushed over. He did not care that he was covered in blood, nor did he care that he was no match for Cole as a 4th level. He was already blinded by hatred. Other than killing Cole, he had no other thoughts. However, just as he reached Cole, he was stunned by Cole's sneer. "Kneel down." Leonard's entire body convulsed uncontrollably. Then, he really knelt down. Gu Mengmeng was very surprised. She did not feel any beast pressure from Cole at all. But Leonard was obviously stunned. Cole looked up, enjoying Gu Mingming's surprised gaze. He smiled. "Ah Gu, do you see that? I am such an unparalleled existence, and I have left a place for you by my side. As long as you are willing, you are my master. I am willing to submit to you, to use this world as a stepping stone, and to bring you to a higher place. There's no need." Gu Mengmeng said. She patted Elvis's shoulder and asked him to bring her away. Gu Mengmeng felt some sympathy for Leonard. Those who hated stray beasts had now become stray beasts, but still had to crawl at the feet of their enemies, unable to resist. Gu Mengmeng finally understood what Leah had said before. Cole had never enjoyed killing, but seeing others struggle in despair. He wanted the pleasure of trampling on others. And Gu Mengmeng could not do anything about Leonard's predicament. After all, Dora was the female he had chosen. He was also the one who had decided to take in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. He had even used the soul of the forest to sue for peace and left Dora behind to search for the soul of the forest with her. He had done everything himself. Now that he had ended up like this, who could he blame? Cole had made use of Dora to scheme against Gu Mengmeng. But Gu Mengmeng knew that she had never harmed anyone before. She would not be so innocent as to take all the blame on herself and say that if it wasn't for her, things would not have turned out this way. She just wanted to know where her son was and how he was now. Elvis understood Gu Mengmeng and did not say a word. He just carried Gu Mengmeng out of the corridor and looked around for Qi Xian, who was sprawled under a tree not far away. Clearly, he had been beaten back to his original form. If not for the slight rise and fall of his abdomen indicating that he was still alive, Gu Mengmeng would have fainted from not being able to catch her breath. Leah stepped forward and started his treatment without a second word. Frowning, Leah cursed in his heart. This damned Leonard, he was too heavy-handed. If Cole didn't kill him later, he would kill him with his own hands. Mingming's heart would ache to see Qi Xian beaten up like this. Leah, how is Qi Xian? Gu Mingming's voice was very soft, as if raising her voice would cause further harm to Qi Xian. But even such a soft sound could not cover the frequency of the trembling. This son of hers always tugged at her heart, causing her so much pain that she wished she were dead. Leah took a deep breath, then turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. He frowned and said, "Mengmeng, you have to promise me that you must remain calm." Once she said that, Gu Mengmeng's whole body went limp and she directly fell into Elvis's arms. She held back her tears and asked, "Will he die?" Chapter 988. Gu Mengmeng nodded. She knew this. Because last winter, when Elvis pretended to be unconscious to create an opportunity for Leah, Leah had told her this. Once something happened to her, Leah would prioritize taking care of her regardless of anyone else's life or death. So, if she wanted Leah to focus on treating Qi Xian, she had to adjust her attitude. She could not allow herself to be distracted by anything. Leah held Gu Mingming's shoulders with both hands. Seeing her determined expression and gradually calming gaze, he exchanged a look with Elvis before continuing to treat Qi Xian. Many of Qi Xuan's bones were fractured, probably caused by external injuries. His internal organs were also severely damaged, probably caused by his refusal to submit to the beast pressure of a higher level. There was a serious buildup of water in his chest, and blood kept flowing from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were starting to lose focus, as if he was forcing himself to look in a certain direction. Leah followed his gaze. It was not Gu Mengmeng, but Cole. "Rascal, listen up." Leah pinched Qi Xuan's mouth and forced his face to face him. Then, he said with a cold expression, "If you die, your mother will kill Cole to vent her anger. And I will put all the tears your mother shed because of your death on Cole's account. I will open a sacrificial altar and make him suffer for eternity, never to see the light of day again. I am a witch doctor, and also the son of the deity of the Snow Fox tribe. You know I have this ability. If you want to protect Cole, you better grit your teeth and bear with it. Live on no matter how painful it is." With that, Lee's palm turned into a sharp claw and accurately opened a small hole in the water in Qi Xuan's chest, letting the water out. Gu Mingming's heart ached as she watched, but there was nothing she could do. In this F*King era where there were no anesthetics, Gu Mengmeng really wanted to use her own chest to bear the pain in Qi Xuan's place. But she could not make a sound. She could not even cry. Because any emotion she showed would distract Leah. Clenching her own mouth tightly, Gu Mengmeng stared fixedly at Qi Xian. Leonard's tragic cries came from behind, but Gu Mengmeng could not muster up a single ounce of sympathy. Her son had been injured by Leonard. This was a debt that Cole and Leonard could not escape from. Pfft. Qi Xian coughed out a mouthful of blood onto Li's face. Leah continued to focus on treating Qi Xuan's injuries as if he could not feel it. Cole walked to Gu Mingming's side and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He looked at Qi Xian and Leah with a cold smile on his lips, completely unable to see the love he had for Qi Xian in the past. Qi Xuan's body convulsed even more violently. His eyes were already glazed over and it was obvious that he could not hold on any longer. Then, Qi Xian gradually calmed down. He stopped convulsing. Furthermore, he did not move an inch. Gu Mengmeng could not control herself and started sobbing softly. Leah stood up and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He could not bear to see her teary eyes, so he just lowered his head and said, "Mengmeng, I'm sorry, ah." Gu Mingming's emotions crumbled at those 3 words. She shook her head furiously. "No, don't let me down. Leah, I beg you, save Qi Xian, If there was a way, how could I bear to let you shed a single tear?" Leah was speechless and could not say a single comforting word. Chapter 989. Gu Mengmeng widened her eyes and glared at Cole. "If you lie to me, I will make sure you die a horrible death." Cole chuckled and released Gu Mingming's chin. With his palm facing upwards, he said, "Give me the soul of the forest." Without another word, Gu Mengmeng handed the soul of the forest to Cole. Without further ado, Cole turned around and squatted beside Qi Xian. Then, he placed that tiny branch between Qi Xuan's brows. Like a leaf in Gu Mingming's palm, that branch gradually melted between Qi Xuan's brows and disappeared. A tattoo-like mark appeared on Qi Xuan's forehead. It was just a branch with 2 forks. One of the leaves was quietly unfurled, while the other was still curled up like a baby's swaddling clothes. A miraculous scene unfolded before Gu Mingming's eyes. The wounds on Qi Xuan's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The rise and fall of his abdomen increased and gradually calmed down. Without another word, Leah squatted back beside Qi Xian and flipped open his eyelids to look at his pupils. He then turned to look at Gu Mengmeng and nodded with a smile. Gu Mengmeng then heaved a sigh of relief, feeling that her heart had finally returned to her chest. Cole tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng. "Ah, Gu, I saved little Xian again. Tell me, how should you repay me?" "Repay?" Gu Mingming's eyes were about to bleed and the blood vessels on her fists were about to burst. She questioned him word by word. "You almost killed my son, how do you think I should repay you?" Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng with an innocent expression. It was little Xian's own decision to stay and fight with Leonard. He is an adult, shouldn't he be responsible for his own decision? Furthermore, the one who injured little Xian was Reynold. I have already crushed Reynolds' bones inch by inch to avenge little Xian. You even used the soul of the forest to extend Xian's life. The kiss of the ocean and the soul of the forest are the ransom that you promised me. I used such precious treasures on Xian. Shouldn't you be thanking me? Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt that she could not speak. Gu Mingming's worldview was so low that she could not respond to it. It was said that a tree without its skin would definitely die, and a person without face would be invincible. This time, she had seen it for herself. He had harmed her son so many times, and now she was thanking him. "What do you think if I remove your head?" Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists, wishing she could crush his head. But Cole chuckled. He glanced sideways at Qi Xian, who had yet to wake up. "You don't want the son you just saved. You." Gu Mengmeng was trembling with rage, but she was helpless because of Qi Xian. She could only grit her teeth and ask, "What do you want for Qi Xian to be let off?" Cole tapped his chin and looked up at the sky. He seemed to think for a long time before replying slowly, "I'll use you to exchange for it, how about that?" If you stay by my side, I will let Qi Xian go and let him leave me. Another one. Gu Mengmeng would never agree to Cole's conditions, because if she did, she would be forcing Elvis and Leah to die. Cole thought about it awkwardly, then pointed at Gu Mengmeng's left ear and said, "How about cutting off your left ear and giving it to me?" Left ear, that was where Lee's mating mark was. Chapter 990. If one ear could be used to exchange for a son, Gu Mengmeng would not hesitate at all. Cole shook his head, his gaze cold. "You clearly know that I do not want to hurt you. Why do you have to provoke my jealousy? I can't bear to hurt you, so I can only vent my anger elsewhere. Tell me, how about I change little Xian's name? Not Qi Xian, let's change him to Fish in the Pond. You keep using Qi Xian to threaten me, aren't you sick of it?" Gu Mengmeng really hated him. She swore that as long as Qi Xian was no longer so blindly loyal to Cole, she would personally tear Cole into pieces. But Cole didn't mind. He just smiled. "It doesn't matter if it's new or old, as long as it works. Little Xian is your Achilles heel. As long as I control him, you can't do anything to me, right? Even if you are so angry that you want to bite me to death, I will still generously display my artery in front of you, but you still have to forcefully suppress your desires and anger. Gu, your life is too tiring. Isn't it better to be more unbridled? As long as you can break through that shackle, your soul will be the most free." Break through the shackle. The shackle in his eyes was her son. Anyone could say harsh words, but if they couldn't do it, it was just nonsense. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to waste even a little more saliva on Cole. She just glared at him fiercely. She wanted to remember the pain and anger she was feeling now, so that she could settle the score with him in the future. Qi Xian made a soft sound. Gu Mengmeng's heart was on Qi Xian. She jumped down from Elvis's arms and pounced towards Qi Xian. She hugged him carefully. "Qi Xian, tell Mummy, are you feeling better? Does it still hurt?" Qi Xian moved his limbs slightly, before slowly transforming into a human in Gu Mengmeng's arms. Gu Mengmeng sized Qi Xian up. She didn't see a single wound on him. She touched his arms and legs. His bones had all grown back. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Qi Xian looked at Gu Mengmeng and pursed his lips, as if he did not know what to say. Him following Cole was equivalent to Gu Mengmeng being controlled by others. Seeing Gu Mengmeng being forced into a corner because of him, it was not that he did not feel guilty, but he could not stop. He wanted to say, "Mom, I'm sorry," but how could these 5 words express his apology? Besides, if he didn't repent, what was the point of saying sorry? He also wanted to say, "Mummy, don't bother about me in the future," but he also knew that Gu Mengmeng was different from other females. If she could be more selfish and not care about his life or death, she would not have been so helpless against Cole and could only shed tears. If only his mother was a little more selfish, then perhaps his heart would not be so tormented. But his mother was not him. She did not have a heart as cruel as him, nor did she have a personality as selfish as him. In the end, Qi Xian did not say a single word to Gu Mengmeng. He just stood there and let Gu Mengmeng stare at him with her teary eyes. Then, he turned around and walked back to Cole's side. He lowered his head and did not say a word, just frowning deeply. Cole gently rubbed Qi Xuan's head with his large hands. "My good little Qi Xian, this is a blessing in disguise for you. Not only did you not die, you even leveled up. You are indeed the son I raised. You are indeed the most outstanding one in the litter of cubs." Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. I still had to be disgusted by Cole on my birthday. I am probably the only author who would torture himself like this. Chapter 991. Seeing that Cole was about to bring Qi Xian away, Gu Mengmeng grabbed Qi Xuan's hand. Qi Xian, Mummy has not seen you for a long time. Can you stay with me for a few days? Just a few days. Qi Xian did not say a word and just looked at Cole with pursed lips. Cole smiled but did not say a word. He had a "you decide" attitude. Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole and just walked to Qi Xian. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and even pleading. Your brothers are here too. They are in the stray beast camp. They just evolved into level 1 orcs. You probably haven't seen what they look like after evolution, have you? Let's go and take a look, okay? Qi Xian remained silent as he looked at Cole again. Gu Mengmeng bit her lip. She had never thought that there would be a day when she would have to beg another man in order to keep her son by her side. Most importantly, this man was not even her son's father. The humbleness that she had never experienced in love was all used on her son. Gu Mengmeng turned around, her hand still clutching tightly onto Qi Xuan's wrist, as if she was afraid that he would run away the moment she turned around. Gu Mengmeng bit her lip and said, I want Qi Xian to stay with me for a few days. Go ahead. Cole stood with his hands clasped behind his back, as if he didn't care at all. But that sly and cold smile was filled with a sense of provocation. This meant that if he did not agree, Qi Xian would not agree. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. Isn't the stray beast camp your territory? Since we're already here, why not go back and take a look? Cole chuckled and played with a few strands of hair in front of Gu Mengmeng's forehead. Aw Gu, are you inviting me? Gu Mengmeng suppressed her disgust and glared at Cole with clenched teeth. It was as if Cole could not understand the hatred in her eyes. He nodded and accepted it gladly. Since it is Ah Gu's invitation, how can I let her down? I'll accompany you wherever you go. Gu Mengmeng turned to pull back her hair, then turned to look at Qi Xian, her face full of anticipation. Qi Xian opened his mouth and finally said softly, I will go wherever he goes. Gu Mengmeng nodded and pulled Qi Xian into her arms. Now, Qi Xian was as tall as a grown man and Gu Mengmeng could no longer carry him like a child. Today, she could only wrap her arms around his waist and her height only reached his chest. But even so, a mother's hug still exuded boundless warmth, burning Qi Xuan's chest. Gu Mengmeng did not let Elvis hug her, but held on to Qi Xuan's hand stubbornly, not willing to let go for even a moment. Elvis's heart ached for her to walk on the mountain roads. Even though she was wearing beast-skin boots, the soles were too thin and her feet were so soft. Her skin would break after walking for less than 500 meters. If she really had to walk to the base camp of the backwave beasts, her feet would be so worn that even her bones could be seen. Hence, Elvis transformed into his beast form and carried Gu Mengmeng on his back. He did not seem to mind that the mounts of most females in the beast world were beast pets that would never have the chance to mate. That was a sign that their family status was low and they lacked power. He didn't care what others thought of him, as long as his Xiao Meng didn't suffer. Chapter 992. Gu Mengmeng didn't have time for him. Elvis, who was carrying Gu Mengmeng, also didn't have time for him. Leo was free, but a 4th-level beast was too weak, so Wabi turned his attention to Cole. I heard you are the king of the stray beasts. Wabi asked. Cole chuckled. How would I dare to call myself king in front of Lord Wabi? Wabi really didn't like such a pretentious person. He snorted. I saw that you were quite arrogant when you were mocking Gu Mengmeng. Why are you so terrified now? Cole wasn't angry. I have always been gentle and polite to those I cannot afford to offend. That was the truth. Cole couldn't beat Wabi. There used to be someone in this world who could beat Wabi, Snake. Unfortunately, he died. Now, there was Gu Meng Meng, who could beat Wabi. Unfortunately, she was busy. Wabi shouted, being invincible is so empty. He glanced sideways at Cole. If you're a coward, then so be it. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? With that, he ignored Cole's reaction and walked over to Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng, where are we going next? When are we going to fight? I have been cooped up for an entire winter. My bones are all stiff. Gu Meng Meng glared at Wabi impatiently. Do you think I have violent tendencies? How can there be so many fights for you? Don't disturb me from coaxing my son. Wabi pointed at Qi Xian. He is already so big. Does he still need you to coax him? I don't care. Hurry up and fight me. Gu Meng Meng was really annoyed. She hooked her finger at Wabi to come over. Wabi swung his arms and walked to Gu Meng Meng's side. Then, he was sent flying far away by a slap from Gu Meng Meng. He only managed to stop after crashing through 7 to 8 trees. This time, not only Wabi, but even Gu Meng Meng herself was stunned. Her strength, when did it become so great? In the past, Wabi would stop after crashing into a tree. At most, he would break one. Today, she had purposely held back. How did this happen? Wabi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and swooped back in front of Gu Meng Meng. He stared fixedly at Gu Meng Meng and hesitated for a long while. Let me see the mark on the back of your neck. Gu Meng Meng pushed aside her hair and turned to show Wabi. Wabi was stunned for a moment and shook his head. It's not him, it's not him. How could this happen? Why isn't it him? What? Gu Meng Meng didn't know what was going on either. She was a little worried when she saw Wabi looking like he had seen a ghost. Wabi stared at Gu Meng Meng with widened eyes, as though blood was about to drip out of them. He held on to Gu Meng Meng's shoulders and said, Go and see your father, now. Ask him what he did to Snake. Gu Meng Meng reached out to touch the back of her neck. She could not see any changes to the mark, so she could only seek help from Leah, who was standing behind her and scrutinizing the mark on the back of her neck. She used her gaze to ask if there was anything wrong with Snake's mark. Leo was a fox. He might be able to differentiate the minute differences between animals with 4 legs, but snakes, from Lee's point of view, every snake really looked the same. Leah shook her head, indicating that she did not know. Gu Meng Meng could only look at Wabi again. Don't be crazy. You have to explain clearly before I can ask. You're already more than 800 years old, why are you so jumpy? Chapter 993. Changed. Gu Meng Meng didn't understand. She looked down at her collarbone. Elvis was a 3rd-level beast when they mated, and now he was a 5th-level beast. But the mating mark hadn't changed. It had remained the same as when he was a 3rd-level beast. The mark on her ear could only be seen at the water's edge, but Leah would definitely tell her if there were any changes. So why did Snake's mark change? Was it because it wasn't a mating mark, but a protection mark? But what was the turning point? Could it be that Wabi's worries were right? Did something happen to Snake over there? Perhaps she really should ask the beast deity, but, looking at Qi Xian, who was holding hands, Gu Meng Meng pursed her lips and suppressed the uneasiness in her heart. She couldn't go to sleep now. She would sleep for at least 3 to 4 days, and Qi Xian would definitely be gone by the time she woke up. If she missed this chance, she didn't know when she would see Qi Xian again. There was one thing she had to try no matter what. She couldn't help but hold Qi Xuan's hand tighter. Gu Meng Meng's eyes were filled with determination. She looked back at Wabi and said, I will ask him later, but not now. Wabi was enraged. He pointed at Gu Meng Meng and shouted, He has already died for you once, what else do you want him to do? Is your female heart made of stone? Can't you show him even the slightest bit of mercy? Gu Mengmeng bit her lip and accepted all of Wabiai's accusations. She admitted that she owed Snake. She deserved to be scolded. But she was a mother. In her eyes, nothing was more important than her own son. Qi Xian had already gone through the gates of hell once today. She couldn't guarantee that pervert Cole would think of another way to torture Qi Xian, or place him in some dangerous place again. She wanted to snatch Qi Xian back. She had to snatch him back. You. Seeing Gu Mingming's silent but uncompromising attitude, Wabiai's eyes narrowed. He was clearly enraged. Charging forward, he roared, "I will knock you out even if I have to risk my life today." Before Wabiai could reach Gu Mengmeng, Leah had already scooped her into his arms and retreated far away. Meanwhile, Elvis stood up at the same time and neutralized Wabiai's attack. Both of them continued to fight. Elvis and Wabiai had fought many battles, real or fake, so they were familiar with each other's attacks. At this moment, Wabiai was really anxious. Snake was a string that he could not touch and he could not calm down at all. On the other hand, Gu Mengmeng was the bottom line that Elvis would never give in to. No matter how strong she was, he would never allow anyone to attack her in front of him. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. In terms of skills, Elvis was still slightly weaker than Wabiai. Seeing that Elvis was gradually losing ground, Gu Mengmeng frowned and shouted, "Everyone stop." She did not release her beast pressure. But Wabiai suddenly fell to the ground, as if something was pressing down on him. He couldn't even get up. Elvis stood rooted to the ground, stunned for a moment. Turning back to look at Gu Mengmeng, he was also in a daze. Gu Mengmeng didn't know what was going on. She had clearly just shouted and she could scare the out-of-control Wabiai to the ground. She didn't think that Wabiai was that afraid of her. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.